Join us for a review of the Mazda CX30 Skyactiv X. Let's go! In the front we can see here this three-dimensional shape. This is a dot-style grille with this glossy black paint, and the cool thing is they don't make that just exclusive to a sports version or something. This is standard equipment. Also LED headlamps are standard equipment. Optional, you can get the matrix LED also for more high beam functionality. 4,39 m, 14'4" or 173 inches is the length. That's 12 centimeters or 5 inches longer than the CX3. Or 15 centimeters or 6 inches shorter than the CX5, and 17.5 centimeters is the ground clearance, by the way. So I mean, it's not the true off-road SUV, but some soft off-road capabilities, why not? Especially because we also have the all-wheel drive model here today. Basically a front-wheel driven platform, so it will be also torque on demand on the rear. That's how it works. Wheels come either with 16-inch or then directly the jump to 18-inch. 16 if you want more riding comfort. In the rear we can see a nice light signature right there, and also Skyactiv X logo for this special petrol engine that combines actually a base petrol engine with a self-ignition of a diesel engine at some point. As for engines, there's a 1.8 liter turbo diesel, 116 horsepower, front-wheel drive only. Then there's a 2 liter petrol engine, naturally aspirated, 122 horsepower, also available with all-wheel drive, or now the version also with 150 horsepower of that. And then there's a 2 liter Skyactiv X engine here today, this petrol engine that combines also diesel technology with 180 horsepower, also optionally available with all-wheel drive. And in the US you get a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine with 186 horsepower. You either have this brown scheme when you pick the animal skin, also here with the animal skin seats. They are of course optional in the price, and they are hotter in summer and cooler in winter, so that's not really desired. Stick with the base fabric seats. They are actually also more comfortable, and they also come with a nice blue leatherette setup then, for example, on the dashboard. That's actually pretty fancy. And they also work on the basic ergonomics form of the seats. That's also very interesting. Getting inside is fairly easy, and that's also an advantage if you compare it to the CX3, the smaller brother. Here you already have this, more spacious feeling, the upright seating position. Also, the comparison to the Mazda 3, this one here, you just sit more comfortably because of the upright seating position. That's actually pretty cool. Interior overview, soft touch material here, leatherette material. That's actually quite fancy. Also with the climate unit. I like to have it still physical. That's really cool. So when the car is turned off, the instruments look all black. When you turn it on, you see everything comes to life, and then you can see on the left and the right side it's just illuminated, but on the middle part it's a digital screen actually. And there's the head-up display, also standard equipment, awesome. It's not too big, but actually pretty crisp and clear to read. And here we go then with the details to see how the CarPlay integration looks like, and this optional Bose sound system is quite good. I mean, not like the super top-notch system, but I mean, quite satisfied with that. So if you are a music lover, you should actually go for that. So then you can go back to the Mazda menu, like here. The rear camera looks like this. It's a decent resolution. It also takes all of the screen, so that's good. And you also have a drone view from above if you want, or if you order one for additional overview. And in the lower middle console you find the sport mode, talking about that while we drive the car. And then there's a central control knob, turning and pressing, GPS hotkey, going back, everything. And then the main home button and the music selection. And then you can also program some favorites if you like. Let's get in the rear. Hardpack at the inside of the doors here, and there's not too much legroom left. It always depends on how your seat is set to the front, how much, how far away you sit from the steering wheel and how tall the driver is. But as my seating set up here at the moment, I don't have, sufficient legroom left. So the trunk is open right here. It's about 430 liters of capacity, and that's what we got here. Pretty square dimensions. Below that is the sound system mounted. In this case, you could also put a replacement tire if you don't have the big sound system. General driving feeling of this car is very neutral, so to say. We also felt it with the Mazda 3, which shares the same platform. Comparison to the Mazda 3, you do sit more upright. That's more relaxing, so it's more comfortable than the Mazda 3. That's also why I prefer going for this one. Then again, the Mazda 3 feels a little bit sportier, so that's definitely a trade-off. But I mean, it's still somewhat agile, so no doubt about that. And they got a very natural steering feeling. That's, I think, something very good what they have accomplished. So you don't feel that the ratio would be messed up or something. The only thing, when you're here going over some bumps and so on, probably the only thing I do criticize with this vehicle that the suspension is not top notch. So it's not the super worst one or something, but you feel that some competitors here, for example the VW T-Roc, when you pick the DCC, dynamic chassis control in there, adaptive suspension, it's really way better than this one here. However, what this one, for example, does way better than the T-Roc, it comes with so much standard equipment. That's just so fair to the customer, and don't have to configure the car all day and then be dissatisfied at the end of the day anyway. This one, with most of the equipment, it's already in there, and that's really so cool. I really praise Mazda for that. So again, natural steering feeling. Suspension could be a little bit more comfortable when running over some bumps. That's probably the only thing I found, let's say, negative with this vehicle. Other than that, I see a good head-up display, which is also standard. Wow, who does that? Crisp view, even though it's so small, but it's totally fine. Not missing so much that I'm, not touching the screen. I mean, I can't reach it here anyway. It's also not meant to be, so it's not a touchscreen, as I said earlier. But controlling that while driving is pretty easy. The menu and so on, everything is pretty simple. And now it's time to go sport. Put in the sport mode, then the gears are turned a little bit higher. We're heading onto the motorway, and I will accelerate as soon as it goes straight, that don't have this uphill bias, that you really know what's going on. 50 kilometers an hour to 100, so 25 miles to 60 miles. Let's see. Let's let this car pass. We don't annoy anyone. And now blind spot monitor, and now let's go. Plop, that's it. So you see, it's also not the fastest car here with the Skyactiv X, but definitely a better punch than with the naturally aspirated engines. So that's really good to have, especially when driving on the motorway. And I mean, the sound wasn't also too bad. So yeah, I mean, why not? So with the naturally aspirated engine you get in the US, the 2.5, the acceleration wouldn't be as, let's say, spontaneous as with the Skyactiv X, but you have this high displacement, rather sonorous linear power output. That's what I find cool. So the overall characteristic of the Skyactiv X engine is rather, again, the blind spot monitor, by the way, it's very well positioned as well. You can see it very well. And I mean, in the Mazda 3 it's even more crucial, but here it's also good to have it. And in European markets, you have it with standard equipment, and in the US you have to go for the second trim level, one trim level above. So I think that's still somewhat fair. When we go back to the non-sports mode, so normal mode, car is a little bit calmer again. I can see the speed in the weather rail and the digital instruments, but also again in the head-up display, pretty cool. Stable characteristics here also on the motorway, so not leaning very much to the left and the right. So it gives me again this very good neutrally balanced handling. Also, because we have the all-wheel drive, more torque was being sent to the rear wheels, so I had a more even acceleration out. That's of course cool. Do you really need the all-wheel drive? Well, if you are in regions, weather conditions where you have a lot of snow, maybe slippery conditions and so on, that might be something. The majority of customers will not need it. If you really need it, again, you know, when you're in other some alpine conditions, or maybe like you live in Minnesota or something, and yeah, probably go for it. But other than that, you'll be also fine without the all-wheel drive. Now we're getting to a roundabout and doing some handling. Let's see how that one turns out, and see also how I turn the steering wheel and how we behave in the corners right there. Don't have to turn it that much. Could be a little bit more progressive, but again, a very natural feeling. Car behaves very well in the corner. Of course, the Mazda 3 would be a little bit sporty here, but the cool thing is that, you know, it's not a super expensive car, not super extraordinary something, but you already have a fun car. It's fun to drive. Well, by the way, in this rainy conditions outside today, I really enjoy having the heated steering wheel here. I just love that, you know, when driving in wintertime and so on. I mean, when you accelerate out, you don't have a rear-wheel visor or something. This is still mainly front-wheel driven platform. So you have some torque at the rear wheels, yes. That gives it a little bit more agility when accelerating out of the corners. But again, since most of the time you're not hammering this car all the way, it's not the biggest difference than front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. And we already had like an acceleration in here, and we have the automatic and the all-wheel drive, and we're still at about 7 liters and 100 kilometers as for the fuel economy, and we scored that also earlier in other tests, and that's really a decent figure, you know. So considering it's an SUV, an automatic, all-wheel drive, and the Skyactiv X sees, you know, it's not that you would consume so much, like less than with the other engines, but consider this is a more powerful engine. And then we also have the additional features in here, and it doesn't consume much more. And now to our conclusion for today with the Mazda CX30 Skyactiv X. First of all, exterior, a fresh look. Yeah, the big wheel cladding on the side profile, you know, you could argue about that, but overall I think a very contemporary look, and they really have very cool colors. For example, this is Magma Red for today. It's one of the best price performance vehicles on the market, I think, if you keep it rather, you know, low and mid spec, because so much is already in the standard equipment. That's something, you know, Mazda has really done very well. It's very fair to the customer. I think in US I would stick with the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, and in Europe I would probably go with the 150 horsepower petrol engine. The Skyactiv X is of course a little bit more fun, a little bit cooler, more spontaneous to drive. But again, it also costs extra. Cool is that it doesn't exceed much in the fuel economy, you know. So you have more power, but you don't have really more consumption. So that's actually a cool aspect about that. On the other hand, the, let's say, normal naturally aspirated petrol engine have the easier technology. So at the moment, I would trust it a little bit more as well. Then interior, great build quality. Best is to go with the standard fabric seats, and then also, for example, with this blue leather red, which is an awesome choice definitely, and it also keeps the price then low. Again, most of the equipment is already inside. In US, I would go for the mid-trim to get also the blind spot monitor. That's very important. We get that from standard equipment in Europe. Other than that, the car is almost already fully equipped, already at the base version. That's again a really, really cool thing. The offering of space on the interior is also, let's say, quite okay. It's maybe they're a little bit better in some of the competitors. You have a more upright seating position than in the Mazda 3. They share the same platform. Here a little bit less sporty ride, but then again a little bit more comfort, sitting more upright. That's pretty cool. You have not a huge car, but already a very good long-term comfort for the front seats. That's, I think, very good. And then, I mean, the overall package, together with the natural driving feeling, how like steering input is. The manual gearboxes are also pretty well done. So automatic, if you're often stuck in traffic, for more comfort, and that manual gearbox will also do a good job. So the whole, feeling, connection driver, car and the road is very cool also here in the Mazda. The suspension could be a little bit more comfortable. So if you're okay with the smaller wheel visual, go for the 16-inch wheels. It doesn't look that fancy, but it will give you more riding comfort. Here with the 18-inch wheels, they look cooler, but then again, a little bit less comfort. You have to decide it on your own. So what's your take on that today? Also, please compare our other Mazda CX30 review. Also check out some of the competitors. We have all the reviews, or maybe compare to the Mazda 3. See you there, and please discuss this car in the comments. Thank you.